The Porter scene is usually treated like a quick laugh break. That reading is too weak. It is one of the clearest signals that Macbeth has already turned his world into hell.
Yes, the joke matters, but the joke is doing real work. Shakespeare puts a drunken porter at the gate, right after Duncan's murder, and that placement is not random. We have just watched a king killed in his sleep. Then the play gives us a man pretending he is the porter of Hellgate.
So this is not comic relief in the soft sense. It is not there to help the audience relax.
Exactly. It releases tension by changing its shape, not by removing it. The laughter comes through filth, fear, and moral rot. That matters because the castle is now being imagined as hell before anyone openly says what Macbeth has done.
And the timing is brutal. Duncan is dead. Macbeth has blood on him. Lady Macbeth is trying to steady the scene. Then we stop at the front door with a drunk servant making jokes.
And those jokes are about who belongs in hell. He imagines letting in an equivocator, a corrupt official, a thief, a tailor. That is not decorative. It widens the murder. The play is saying this crime belongs in a larger world of fraud, greed, and moral collapse.
That point gets missed because people hear the knocking and think, fine, pause in the action. But the knocking is pressure.
Right. The knocking is the outside world forcing its way back in. Macbeth wants the murder contained inside the room, inside the night, inside himself, if possible. The knocking says no. Consequences are at the door.
And the porter answers that pressure by imagining himself gatekeeper of hell. Which means the castle is not just compared to hell after the fact. It feels like hell already.
That is the key correction. The scene is not saying, here is a funny symbol. It is saying human action has already degraded this place. Duncan's murder has changed the moral atmosphere. Before the body is even discovered, the language of hell fits the house.
So when people say the scene is just there to give the audience a breather, they flatten it.
They do. Because the comedy is contaminated. The porter is drunk, slow, coarse, rambling. The scene drags its feet on purpose, while horror sits upstairs. That mismatch is the point. In a healthy world, the king's home should be ordered, guarded, stable. Here, the gate is managed by a half-conscious clown talking about damnation.
That is a real drop in level. Power has been seized through murder, and the first public face of the castle is disorder.
Yes, the world has become shabby at the exact moment Macbeth is trying to rise. That is important. He thinks killing Duncan will lift him up. The play immediately answers with degradation. Not triumph, not grandeur, rot.
Give me a concrete example inside the scene.
Take the Hellgate routine itself. The porter keeps pretending different sinners are knocking for entry. An equivocator, a farmer who hanged himself, a tailor who stole cloth. It is comic, but every example turns on failure, cheating, or desperation. This is the moral texture of the world now. Small corruption and great corruption belong on the same threshold.
And then Macduff arrives at the actual door.
Exactly. That is where the scene bites hardest. The fake gatekeeper opens the door, and in comes the man who will expose the crime and eventually destroy Macbeth. So the comedy does not interrupt the plot. It ushers in the next stage of danger.
That matters strategically. Macbeth has won the crown in private, but the knocking means he cannot control who enters the story next.
Yes, the murder gives him temporary advantage, but the porter scene shows the cost at once. The castle is morally poisoned, and the outside world is arriving. Macduff is not just a visitor. He is the beginning of Macbeth's loss of control.
There is also something nasty in the language itself. The scene is full of drink, sex jokes, sluggishness, bodily mess. It feels low.
And it should. That low texture is not accidental. Shakespeare brings the play down into the body right after a supposedly grand political crime. Why? Because murder does not make Macbeth sublime. It makes the world foul. The comedy and the corruption are tied together.
So we should not overdo the symbolism either. The castle is not literally hell. The point is sharper than that.
Right. If you turn the scene into a big mystical emblem, you miss its force. It is practical, immediate, and human. People have lied, killed, and scrambled for power, and now ordinary language starts naming the place for what it feels like. Hellgate is not abstract theology here. It is the right joke for a house where a sacred guest has just been butchered.
That is why the scene feels ugly rather than playful. The laughter catches in the throat.
Yes, because the play wants two things at once. It wants the audience to laugh at the porter, and it wants them to feel that the laugh belongs to a damaged world. That double effect matters. Comedy here does not cleanse corruption. It reveals how deep corruption has already gone.
And once you see that, the scene stops being detachable. You cannot cut it off as a side joke.
No. It is the hinge between secret murder and public discovery. It marks the moment when private evil becomes the atmosphere of the whole play. After this, Macbeth is not just a man with a guilty conscience. He is ruling inside a world he has helped turn infernal.
So the real hell of Macbeth is not fire underground. It is a kingdom made unclean by choice.
Exactly. The porter scene says the worst thing plainly. Hell is not arriving later as punishment. In Macbeth, people build it first.